Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4?
Week 3, episode 3.
Episode 3. The episode 0 always throws me off, man. Every single time. Locked in. Here we are. I am your host, Nathan Jones.
This is Daniel O'Connor.
And this is Locked in MTG.
Yep. We're here at Enchanted Realms because they are an awesome place to come play Magic. They're open 7 days a week. They got Magic 7 days a week.
That's right. Located right here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Come check out Enchanted Realms for all your MTG, D&D. They got a whole bunch of Star Wars here.
I think, we're sitting in one of the, it's like Silver Throne Room or whatever this one's reserved for right now. Yeah, they got basically every board game and card game you can basically need, and space to play them all.
We love it here. So if you're in the Colorado Springs area, come check out Enchanted Realms and come play a game of Magic with me and Daniel.
Yep. I'll be here all the time.
Daniel.
Yes.
This weekend we had 2 GPs.
We had 2 GPs.
Do you know where?
Orlando, Florida, and Brussels, Europe.
That's pretty. That's pretty. Yep, you're right.
I'm not wrong.
You are right.
I strive to not be wrong.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this weekend, I just want to jump right into it because this weekend was incredible to watch Magic. Not only did we see the whole meta shift because of the 2 decks that we had talked about last week, Mono Blue Storm and Bant Nexus, I guess people have been calling it, right?
Yeah, it's a Turbo Fog deck, so it's usually classified like that, but it's basically Nexus of Fate.
Exactly. Not only that, but both finals of the GPs were both winners of the GPs were both control decks, which we haven't seen a double control deck win, over a weekend.
Not for a while.
Not for a long time.
At least not when we've had 2 GPs. The most we've gotten is mirrors in the final of control mirrors kind of thing.
But yeah, start us off. What'd you think?
Very entertaining top 8 to watch. There was something like 11 different archetypes between the 2 GP top 8s. 16 decks and 11 or so archetypes.
Yep.
So that was very entertaining to watch. It was really nice to have a control mirror on in one of the quarterfinals. We'll get to that in a little bit. But the 2 main decks, I wouldn't say main decks, but the hype decks of the week, wanted to kind of go over how they shifted the metagame around them. Because we had the Nexus of Fate deck and the Mono Blue Storm deck. And the Nexus of Fate deck was its weaknesses being kind of controlled out of the game.
Yeah.
Because it's relying on certain cards to go off, and a lot of its cards don't actually impact the board a lot if they're not. It's Fogs and it's Gift of Paradise, and those cards don't do a lot except delay the game. So if you're playing against somebody who's able to disrupt those cards or prolong the game, those cards do nothing. So that's why you can see a very big uptick in the control decks, because they have the tools to stop the important pieces and not care about the unimportant pieces.
That's true. So we, the 2 winners over the weekend for GP Orlando, we have Gabriel. Is it Yoglar?
I'm gonna apologize for butchering that name. But
Yogler?
It might be Hogler. I don't know.
Hogler? Jogler? I don't know, man. Gabriel J. With this blue-white approach.
Yeah, that was one of the slight problems. Is they broadcasted Brussels, but they didn't broadcast Orlando.
Right.
So I know how to pronounce all the French names that we're going to pronounce this afternoon, but not all the American names. Go figure.
And for GP Brussels, we had Jeremy Dazani with Esper Control.
Oh, yeah.
And specifically in his deck, I want to point out the Chromium.
That was good.
That was a good card.
Yeah, the Chromium out of the sideboard, that's one of the many reasons to play white in your... It's basically a blue-black control deck, but he was splashing the white for Teferi, some sideboard cards, and most importantly, Chromium, which we saw a lot in that.
That's what actually won him...
The control mirror,
The control mirror was Chromium.
Yes.
How often... I got a question for you. I'm a little foggy after this week, but... did he ever activate the ability to make Chromium the 0/1?
Not really.
I didn't think so.
Because the thing with that deck is when you're bringing in Chromium, for a control mirror, your opponent's citing out most of their spot removal that can deal with it, and most spot removal can't really deal with a legendary 7/7 with flying.
Right.
You're talking about Cast Down can't hit it. Vraska's Contempt can hit it. Fatal Push can't hit it. You're not getting a Harness Lightning on that thing anytime soon. A Braid can't hit it. Unlicensed Disintegration does hit it, but you're not bringing it in against decks that have Unlicensed Disintegration. So when you're bringing it in, you're not bringing it in against decks that are going to have a lot of removal post board, so you don't usually need to activate its ability.
Yeah.
And it's a 7/7, so it's not like you're not worried about blockers as much unless they also have a Chromium, but that's usually very problematic for you to be doing.
Okay, so yeah, this is the list that I wanted to go over because honestly, it's really surprising that that Control One, like, I just haven't.
The thing is, like, there's a lot of decks that are easily able to prey on Control. It like the red black decks that have been really dominating the format, which are still fine to good against the Nexus decks.
Mm-hmm.
They are a bad matchup for the Control decks because they have the hand interaction and the Argyl's Bloodfast to keep their hand refilled. That you're very much able to pick apart the Control decks and then just beat them down once they're disrupted.
Yeah, it's been like that for a while in Standard, where as long as your Control deck is playing black, like, you have a really, really good matchup against the other Control decks. The approaches, the like winless or win-con-less Teferi decks, things like that.
Yeah, when you're playing a blue-black control deck or an Esper control deck, you're basically a blue-black control deck, which gives you access to both the counter magic, but also the best actual spot removal. All your spot removal goes good with Torrential Gearhulk, and it gives you the best hand disruption.
In the sideboard, there's a detection tower. Did you see that?
Yeah, that's...
So is that just for Vinemare?
Yeah, that's basically against mono green. Primarily, Vinemare also hits Carnage Tyrant.
Oh man, that's so good.
Yeah. It's a nice nod. I had about 2 weeks ago in my blue-black summoning deck, I put one in the main board and just replaced it with an island. I never had mana problems, but I did not play against green that night, so it just didn't do anything to me. But I do like, especially in this 3-color deck, playing it in the sideboard just as a one-of. I mean, like, you could. There are matches where you want an extra land anyways. Against the Control Mirror, you want to be able to... Ooh, that's actually really nice. Against the Control Mirror, having an extra land so you are ensuring you're hitting land
right.
helps. So there's no reason not to bring it in. And actually, Detection Tower, if you activate it, even if they activate Chromium before or after because of the way Detection Tower...
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because of the way Detection Tower is worded, it just says, until end of turn, you can target things with Hexproof. If that means if they gain Hexproof afterwards, you can still target things with Hexproof as though it did it. Which means if you go to target something and they Chromium discard a card, you can activate your Detection Shower at any time, and now they've discarded a card, and you can still kill their creature.
That's fair. I wonder how it's going to show up on MTGO, like, as the reminder text for when you activate that on a card. I wonder if it's going to be like, can be targeted, like...
Yes, I don't think I haven't seen it because I don't play
either.
Magic Online, but because you see cards on Magic Online are nice and they're like smart cards. They have the little blue text to remind you of stuff. I suspect it just says can be targeted as though it didn't have hexproof or something like that.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. It just seems like a lot of text to put on a card.
Yeah, who knows?
You're gonna push that text box all the way down.
I mean, it's Magic Online. The cards kind of auto scale. Anyhow, yeah, the Detection Tower tech in the sideboard is really nice. The Sorcerer's Spyglass in the sideboard, not only is it a good all-purpose card, it shuts down opposing Teferis, it shuts down opposing Karns, it shuts down Heart of Kiran. It also shuts off Aetherflux Reservoir.
Oh yeah, it does.
I mean, they can gain a bajillion life, but they can't shoot you with Reservoir anymore.
Yeah, and then you can just deck them because their whole deck is about drawing cards.
Yeah, I mean they can still kill you with Psi and Thopter tokens, but when you put down the Spyglass, you turn their 3-pronged deck into a 1-pronged deck. They can't combo off to enough life to kill you, and they're just stuck attacking.
That's true.
And they're stuck attacking with very bad creatures. Like
the one spot in the sideboard in his deck I was really interested in is the one walking ballista. What's up with that?
It's great.
I can't really put my finger on. Like, I get that it's good against the small creature decks, like the red decks.
It's also great against control.
Yeah, right. You just bring it in because it's just another threat that they have to answer. You can play it on
2, and then just whenever you don't have anything to do with your turn, because there's a lot of turns in control mirrors where you just don't do anything with your turn.
Right.
So you just tap 4 mana, put another counter on it, and it just becomes an increasing liability. If you ever get to just 21 counters or whatever your opponent's life total minus or plus 1 is, you can just fireball them for lethal, and as long as they don't have multiple disallows to counter them, or
Yeah, I know, but with the 2 glint sleeve siphoners in the sideboard, I've been wondering if the Walking Ballista should just be the 3rd glint sleeve.
Well, that's the thing.
Because it guarantees that like
Well-
you'll have it gives you a much higher percentage to have one in your opening hand, which you want against the control mirrors.
Mm-hmm.
You want that and Search and what is it? Arguel's Bloodfast.
Yes.
You want those kind of card advantage cards early.
Well, that's the thing. When you're playing in a control mirror, you're siding out all your cheap interaction spells. You usually go down to like 3 Vraska's Contempt. You take out all your Fatal Push. You take out all your Cast Down, which means now Walking Ballista can just take down Glint Sleeve Siphoners all day.
Yeah, that's true.
So it doubles as both a way to stop your opponent's card advantage
Opponent's glint sleeve siphoners.
and it works as a
Wow,
link.
I actually really like that now.
Yeah.
Like now that you put it that way.
Yeah, no, the fact that Siphoner only has 1 toughness makes Walking Ballista really good in those kind of...
Right, and like don't get me wrong, like I understand that Walking Ballista is just a phenomenal card, like kind of a little broken.
It's definitely pushed. The fact
Yeah.
that it's colorless makes it accentuates its pushed-ness, if those are words.
They are now. So yeah, I don't know, I was just really impressed by the list. I don't know, Control had been performing so poorly for me a few months back that I had just kind of honestly like fallen off of it, and I really haven't been keeping up with it. The updates to the Control decks haven't been that impactful to the format. Like it feels like Control decks have kind of really stagnated. We got Teferi out of Dominaria, and that was like the big inclusion. That's what's been pushing all these Control decks to white, and
Teferi and Seal Away.
yeah, and Seal Away, and besides that, there really haven't been really big hits for the Control deck.
Yeah, when Core 19 came out, we had a lot of tools for a lot of other decks and almost nothing except Chromium for control mirrors.
Yep.
Or for control decks in general. It's only for control mirrors. So when that happens, you have a lot of other decks experimenting, being all over the place, flushing the rest of the metagame out. And while that's happening, Control is really bad. Like when Control doesn't know what it's aiming for and doesn't know
Of course.
all the little tweaks like the sideboard, Walking Ballista, the sideboard, Sorcerer's Spyglass, you don't have the tools you need to fight the biggest decks. You're only fighting broad stroke decks.
Yep.
That's when Control is really bad. Once Control has an idea of what it's fighting against, it can prepare for that kind of thing. Control starts getting more ground again. Especially when Control is good against those couple matches, like the Nexus deck and the Mono Blue Storm deck.
Okay. You just brought up the Mono Blue Storm deck. That reminds me. I really wanted to bring this little factoid up. Mono Blue Storm had an 82% conversion rate for day 1, or for day 2 rather.
Yeah, no,
that is insane.
That's quite impressive. Let me real quickly take a peek because I want to see how many actual players that works out to be.
Yeah, that's fine. I while you're pulling that up, I just kind of here it is already. We got Mono Blue Storm 13 on day 2. Day 2 percentage 5.4.
Yeah, but so you're talking 13 players, which means you probably only have 15 players playing it in the tournament to get you to that 82. I think the max. It's 15 or 16. I can do the math later.
Yeah.
But you're talking about 15 players. Almost all of which made day 2 with a Mono Blue Storm deck. That's actually quite impressive.
That and so is that because people were not prepared for it? They didn't, maybe they weren't expecting the Mono Blue Storm matchup as much, or is it because that this deck is really that good? Because I feel like there's plenty of decent answers for it.
I suspect it's a combination of it's a Pro Tour deck. It didn't really do a lot at the Pro Tour. It showed up, but it wasn't in like the top 30.
Right.
So I suspect a lot of players says like, oh, this is a one-off deck. Mm-hmm. They probably didn't pack as much hate for it. They probably didn't think they needed to. They probably didn't get a lot of testing in against it because it is a very weird deck to play. And while you're playing against the deck, you're kind of, especially if you haven't tested enough, it's a little all over the place. So a lot of people probably be like, I have my braids, I'm going to keep my braids in. And that's about it. Maybe they shifted 1 or 2 to the main board, but I suspect that's about what most players did. And because of that, the Mono Blue Storm deck doesn't have, or has a lot more free reign to go to just start crushing people who are not prepared for it.
Another deck that I wanted to bring up was this one right here, Sultai Gift.
Did
you see that deck?
I actually played against this deck at F&M level event or whatever, like 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, that's clever. I've seen blue-green deck.
Do you want to explain how it works?
So you have a couple of cards. You have both the green Explore cards, Daylight Ranger and Merfolk Branchwalker. Those are milling you. You have the new Stitcher's Supplier.
Yeah.
That's also milling you. And you're also playing your blue cards like the 1 mana 1/2 that when it enters the battlefield you get 2 energy and you pay an energy to mill yourself 3.
Yeah.
Mill target player 3. I don't remember his name. Minister of Inquiries. And you have the Champion of Wit. So you have a whole bunch of cards that are able to mill yourself. And you have your usual Dates of the Afterlife gifts. Godfarer's gift package. You have a lot of the tools to do what you want. You have blue to be counter magic against those decks. You have black to be removal against those decks.
Mm-hmm.
You also have green to be able to interact with the artifacts. You'll be able to play Naturalize in the sideboard to help against the mono blue storm deck. So
Carnage Tyrant against control decks.
I never got to see Carnage Tyrant come in, but it wouldn't surprise me. The deck also gets to play things like Hostage Taker. I got like that was the most obnoxious thing. I was playing against him. And he's playing a Hostage Taker, and he has the mana to recast my Torrential as soon as he eats it. So I had to kill it on the stack or whatever. It was just an obnoxious situation to be in. I like it when people try to play Hostage Taker against my Gear Hulk, because then it's like, oh, I'm just going to kill your Hostage Taker and get my free spell again. But that was a case where it was just like, it was really a pain in the butt because he had the mana to recast it, which was really obnoxious.
I cannot wait for rotation because I feel like Hostage Taker might take off. It might become good again.
Especially in a smaller pool.
Yeah.
You are more likely to you're more likely to need more good cards, which means Hostage Taker stock goes up just because everybody else goes down.
Yep.
But as far as we also lose Fatal Push, which is a very big knock against it. We lose Abrade, which is a big knock against it, and we lose Harness Lightning, which hasn't seen a lot of play, but is also a reason to keep Hostage Taker down. Which means you lose a lot of removal spells that specifically are very good against it. So it's more likely to actually stick long enough for you to be able to recast the spell underneath it.
I just absolutely, man, I love that card. That is my 100% my favorite card out of the entire Ixalan block.
I've tried to put it in so many random.
When that card came out, I immediately bought my 4 copies because I knew that regardless of whether or not that card was good in the format, I was going to play it.
There was going to be a home for it. Yeah.
Yeah, the flavor of it is perfect. It's so cool. It's like they get Stockholm syndrome, where like if you kidnap somebody and hold them in like a basement dungeon for like a couple years, they
believe that's called the Brig.
No, whatever.
I mean, it's a pirate.
Is it? Well, yeah, sure. But like the idea is you hold them for so long that they become accustomed to you and their life and everything, and so then they start working for you. I just love the flavor of it.
Oh yeah, no, the flavor of that is great.
It's just such a good card for 4 mana. Like for 4 mana, you just get a whole nother card.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's a removal spell,
and it's a creature.
Yeah,
I love it. It's so good. How often does blue-black get such a cool creature like that? Not very often.
No, it's a very unique card. I do like it, especially in the Sultai decks. The old Sultai energy decks that were playing Blossoming Defense.
So good.
It meant you could easily protect you could play it on 5. Get a very valuable creature off the battlefield on the other side, and be able to protect it long enough to actually be able to get value off of it. Because the problem with, of course, Hostage Taker is you pass the turn and it dies, and then you've lost all that value again. But
that line of play is what was winning against the red decks.
The Hostage Taker, back it up with Blossoming Defense?
Back it up with Blossoming Defense.
Oh, yeah.
So you have you take one of their things, and then you take one of the removal spells, and then you get another thing on top of it, and then you get an even bigger blocker that has 4 toughness to block all their creatures. It was like one of my favorite lines,
especially because
against that matchup. For
a lot of times
time.
Against the red deck, you can play Hostage Taker, and instead of trying to back it up with Blossoming Defense, you could just cast their thing again. Like you steal a Boomite Courier, you just 5 mana, I take your guy, and now you have an extra trump blocker.
Yep. Yeah, I did it all the time. That's why, I don't know, there's something about that card I just absolutely
love. It's a very fun and unique card. I really like it.
So yeah, I don't know, the GP this weekend, I really wish I could have gone to Orlando. I was kind of planning on it, but I don't know, I just like with the format coming to an end, I kind of just want to take a break for a couple weeks and kind of like recharge the batteries, because I hit like a stint of GPs, like at least one every month for the past few months now, and like not to say that I'm like burned out, because I definitely would have gone, but I just like I want to get refreshed, and like
you don't want to burn out when we go back to Ravnica.
Yeah, like I want to be able to come down as the moment that Ravnica is spoiled for us. I want to start sitting down and breaking apart the format, like the limited format, and then immediately start figuring out like standard. And I just want to jump head first into it because after rotation is when things generally like power down and the formats will slow down, especially this format with how many like red rare cards that we have that we're rotating out.
The formats, unless they just give us like 9 red rare cards.
No, they won't.
Unless they do that, we are going to have a objectively slower standard format. Unless they, I mean, we might.
Like historically, like Ravnica sets have been generally pretty slow formats because they are
everything's gold.
Because everything's gold. You got 2 different colors to work with. Color fixing is usually really good in the Ravnica sets, but it takes a little bit of time to set up. You need, your tap lands. There's a lot of mana rocks in these sets. So at the limited format, I would be really surprised unless we get some crazy Boros aggro deck. You know what I mean? Like
just something straight out of Amonkhet where it's just like everything's exerting and not block. Yeah.
Right. And so
unless Boros looks like that, we should have a nice, like we have in Dominaria, where just like a nice grindy format, lots of interaction, lots of dual color cards.
Right. There were very few Dominaria is a good one to point out because there were very few games in Dominaria that felt like terrible.
Because the thing is, all the bombs were technically beatable.
Yep,
with
all of them were.
Commons and uncommons. There were reasonably powered commons and uncommons that you could use. So, there was no. Right now, the limited format looks like we kind of clash things, and then whoever plays the biggest creature that lives long enough to win the game just wins the game.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was for a while.
Like
or that's how it is right now with M19.
Yeah,
it's very what is it? Battle cruiser magic.
Yeah, once you just slam the biggest thing, you kind of just ride it to victory. As opposed to Dominaria, where it's just like I've beat Lyra Dawnbreakers in Dominaria. I beat Multani, and Multani's probably like the best card in Dominaria. And it's just like if you are playing correctly, you can beat Multani.
Yeah.
Right now, the biggest cards in Dominaria are just so impossible to beat that it doesn't.
M19.
Yeah. In Core 19, so impossible to beat. There's like once the only way you beat him is just play something bigger.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. I kind of just want to take a step back. I think with the standard format being as aggressive as it is and being as stagnant, I feel it's felt very stagnant.
Well, it is moving.
Yeah, for sure, it's moving. It's just like that wheel is turning, but when it's a damn cheese wheel, like who cares? I want it to be an actual tire, like. It's been the same thing for the past 6 months now. And I mean, obviously we have the red decks on top, the red-black decks on top, and then, people adjust accordingly, and the format slowly rotates, but it slowly rotates.
It's slowly rotating, and the thing is, the core of it isn't really changing. You still have red and red-black. Yep. You still have green. You still have Gearhold decks.
I really want... Standard has been so, streamlined the past couple years... with power level, like power creep, that you get punished as a brewer. It's really hard to brew decks and find. I mean, you can find a moderate amount of success, but you can take it to an F&M and win with your crazy was a combo deck or whatever. But it can happen. But I would not feel comfortable taking any of these decks to any competitive REL event. And so I just hope that the format slows down enough to where brewers aren't so punished. We have somebody at a local shop. His name is Zach, and he is known for being the in-house brewer.
Oh yeah,
constantly on group chats, asking about interactions between cards and how things work.
I had traded him 3 midnight oil 2 weeks ago.
He traded him 3 midnight oil.
I don't know what he's doing with them. I'm a little bit scared to ask, but he's playing with midnight oil.
And I can't begin to tell you how frustrated he has been with Magic as a brewer for the past few months. He even stopped playing Magic for a little while.
Yeah, because the decks that he's trying to build, the interaction that he's trying to build, even when you're building your deck correctly with good reasonable interactions against your opponent's decks, if you're not doing something that's super powerful, it is very easy to get behind these.
Yeah, and when you play Captain's Hook on turn 2, you're not powerful enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you play Midnight Oil on turn 4 and then die on turn 5.
Yeah.
That's just unfortunate.
The format isn't slow enough to really...
I mean, it is what it is, and I'll accept it for what it is. But I'm just ready for a change of pace at this point.
It's been an enjoyable format if you like, to bring back an old example, Cobblade Mirrors, if you like this kind of there is 3 stock decks, and you are rewarded for knowing the interactions of the decks. That's, if you enjoy that kind of Magic, then it's been great for you. But if you like to be able to take Magic sideways, be able to have better interactions that are more likely to take opponents' decks on edge, we have more diverse threats, then it is much harder to play.
Yeah, that's fair. So, I don't know, just with that in mind, like, I'm also excited for Ravnica to come out to start, like, this whole swing of our show that, we're kind of just waiting on this format to come out.
Yes.
And rotation to happen because, it's a little unfortunate we show up every week and we're like,
well,
there's 2 new cards in the standard format. Like,
yeah. Like, right now, as far as this podcast goes, we're kind of in this, like, from here to Ravnica is this nice little, like, warm-up period where we're getting used to talking, getting used to looking at the decks better. And the problem is the format's not really rewarding us for looking at these new decks as much because it's not really doing a lot for us. So we're just getting used to the things, but once Ravnica comes out, then we're able to actually really get the swing of this podcast.
Yeah. So, enough about our personal problems. I want to talk about a problem in Modern.
Oh, yes.
So this week, Seth, probably better known as obligatory Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive.
There's some probably people who don't know both. There's 2 sides of the same coin.
Right.
Saffron Olive
posted an article this week saying modern deck prices have increased 26% in 2018. Back in 2015, he wrote an article showing how modern prices had increased 25% in 6 months, thanks in large part to the lackluster Modern 2015 set. Mm-hmm. The TLDR of it all is Wizards didn't just need to reprint more modern cards. Modern Masters 2015 had just been released. It needed to reprint better modern cards.
Yeah, the problem with all the modern sets have been that they've only really printed a handful of Chase Mythics to get the boxes sold. But there are so many cards in Modern, and the prices are all going up because the format's getting played, which is good. People are playing the format, people are enjoying the format is growing. All the cards are rising in price because of it, and Wizards isn't printing accordingly. They're printing a couple Chase ones that they're it feels a lot like, I don't know if you've played the space shoot 'em up or the space games where the bad guys are coming from the top and you're trying to shoot the people as they come down.
Galaga?
Yeah, Galaga is an example of that style of deck, but or
like Centipede rather.
Yeah, Centipede's a great example of that. The things are coming at you, and they're only shooting the first cards. They're only shooting the top most expensive cards.
Right.
They're not truly printing enough.
And not even that. I mean, dude, to be fair, these Modern Masters sets, there's just these like commons and uncommons that are just like, why is this even like I'm paying how much for a pack? And my common I'm getting a nameless inversion. Like, what? Like, why is this in this set? Like, I mean, I get it. It's for the limited format or whatever.
But they could build a real limited format with powerful cards.
I know, but when people are paying, such crazy MSRPs for these packs of Masters, and then you open up a 25-cent rare, like, that's going to make people, not want to buy it.
I opened, like, what's the one that was banned in Commander for a while? It's the dragon that says when it dies, each opponent loses 5 life and you gain life. You get a little life loss. The black one. But any of those falling...
Kokusho, yeah. The Evening Star.
You open that up in your Master... It is like, would have been great in Limited, but no, like, I'm not buying these to play Limited. I'm buying these to get reasonable value.
Right. So I want to go over with you real quick. How much of a price change the top... 12 most played decks in Modern have increased. So, to give you kind of an example of what we're working with. Humans, as of November 2017, was a $994 deck to completely build it. In today's price, it is $1,400.
That's 150% raise, give or take.
No, it's a 40% raise.
It's 150% of what it used to be.
Tron was $574, November 2017.
That's not unreasonable.
So in almost a year, it's gone up to just under $800. That's crazy.
That's a lot less than I would expect it to
That's
be.
less than a year.
Yeah, but that's still a lot raise.
Blue-white control. I mean, okay, and this one I would take with a grain of salt because we did just get a whole bunch of new cards with Teferi and Search for Azcanta. So there have been a whole bunch of updates for the blue-white control decks.
Which means on top of both, there are new cards that you need to buy, but there's also like the rest of the cards go up in value because of these new cards.
Right. So kind of buffer this price a little bit because obviously it'll fluctuate a little bit. Like obviously Teferi's won't be $40 or whatever when standard rotates. I mean they might be. I don't know. I'm not a financial guy, but I really doubt that Teferi's will be $40 a piece. I can't see that in today's world, especially with how much Dominaria is printed. But Blue-White Control, $679 last year in November. Today, it is $1,050. If you want to play Blue-White Control Modern, you got to put down $1,000.
Yeah.
That's insane. How can anybody reasonably get into this format that isn't already... See, like, Modern and Legacy reward players who have been playing for a long time. But Wizards of the Coast has been pushing so hard to get new players in. Even this week, they're releasing these new products for people who are just playing for the first time. Did you see the WPN commercials that came out for it? It's like a battle box type thing where you get two 60-card decks, and they're both just hot garbage.
I think I vaguely saw something about that.
Yeah, one of them gets a Galta, one of them gets like some angel card.
Yeah,
and you get like 2 dice and 2 rule books, and that's
the
great.
Angel card, if I remember correctly, that I saw this on Reddit, and it's like that angel card is one of the Welcome 17 cards that's not even printed in standard, or it's not even printed in a standard legal set because it's not powerful enough for anybody to care about it in draft.
Exactly. So. With Wizards of the Coast pushing so hard for new players, it feels like Modern is once again pushed to the wayside. We went through, almost a decade before they really started supporting Modern as a format.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me as far as, they originally started pushing this format as here's what to do with your old cards. Which makes sense. And then the format took off.
Yeah, and then it got insanely popular, and then it feels like they stopped supporting it.
They stopped supporting it for a while, and then when they realized, oh my goodness, this format is stupid expensive, they started supporting it. They've been doing it poorly, and they're not really supporting it. Like, they're not even, like... half the problem is they haven't been pushing any sort of modern staples in standard legal sets, which I think that would go a long way towards helping... the price of standard or modern staples retain or stay at reasonable cost. Like if you could have seen Tarmogoyf printed in Shadows of Innistrad. There was a Delirium theme. You could have reprinted it. It would have been a little powerful, but it's still just a big dumb dude.
Yeah.
Next 2 sets later, Fatal Push comes out.
Do you feel like right? And then that would have been a really good answer for that card. Yeah. And at the time, we still had really good answers with what was the Battle for Zendikar. It was like a seal away, essentially.
I think,
it was essentially a seal away, Stasis Snare. And all that. Like, we had reasonable answers for it. Yeah. And so, like, it's not the worst thing in the world, but, like, do you feel like standard legal sets should have modern staples printed in them?
See, there was a problem...
Like with Thoughtseize and Theros.
Yeah, Thoughtseize was a problem.
But I think that it wasn't that Thoughtseize was so good you just had to play it. I think it was just a symptom of everything had kind of melded together, and Thoughtseize was put at the forefront because it gave people this example where it's like, see, this is what happens when you print modern legal cards in standard. And a lot of the more casual players argued like, this is why I don't want modern cards printed in standard. And, and Wizards has been pushing so hard for new players the past few years.
They have to make sure that if they're printing modern legal cards in standard, there's a reason for it. It fits thematically, and it's also like, I would almost say reactionary to solve a problem. Like, Thoughtseize should have been reactionary to solve a problem, not just proactively just putting it in. Tarmogoyf you could get away with because it's a proactive card. It's not really a huge problem because like the graveyards are so much harder to fill in standard. It's so much harder to get Delirium in standard.
Yeah.
So like your Goyf isn't going to blow up like it does in modern. I'm pretty sure you could look at the standard results from when Tarmogoyf was first in standard, and it wasn't so good that it wasn't just a 2 mana 3/4, which I think is a reasonable body for standard if you are also printing things like Fatal Push. And Grasp of Darkness was illegal at the same time.
So, one more example I want to give you, Jund. In Modern, it is regarded as, the best fair deck, essentially. As of November last year, if you wanted to play Jund, it was going to cost you $1,500 to build the deck.
That's a little less, like it is one of the more expensive decks because it's just a pile of good cards. You have more cards that go in every deck.
Yep.
So it's more likely,
Right.
It's more likely to be popular, but that's not a bad thing. Like the upside to this is that as you are buying Jund cards, you're more likely to put them in any other deck. Half the reason I was able to get into Grixis Death Shadow was because I was already in Grixis Delver. And when you're buying into a archetypical thing like Jund, like Grixis, like Blue-White Control or Jeskai Control, you look at your collection and you just start buying cards that are good in these styles of play, and it's easier to just pick up pieces here and there. So Jund being expensive makes a little bit more sense because it's just a pile of good cards, but it also rewards Jund players because it means they don't have to buy new cards more often to be able to keep playing.
Okay.
Would
you have that same argument if I told you that the exact same deck now costs $2,000? That if you wanted to play Jund, you had to put down more than some cards.
Yeah.
Like you can buy a card for $2,000. I mean, It's not the best card, but you can buy a card for $2,000. Your Jund deck is a card.
I would still defend my argument. It's like you're still, the thing with Jund is you're investing into an archetype. So
yeah, right.
But I
That's
don't
fair.
think it should be $2,000.
Okay.
That's still absurd.
That was my question. I was about to say, you are not on the right podcast, Daniel. If you feel that Jund at $2,000 is fair.
Well, the thing is, it's not like humans, where humans are only, all those cards in humans are really only good because they are
the human deck, right?
Yeah. So you're looking at
right. I understand that. Like you're buying all these pieces that go into all these decks.
And the best part about these cards in particular is you are more likely to have had them from standard because they're good cards in standard. So you're just more likely to transition them over.
Grixis Death Shadow, $1,024 as of November. Today's price, $1,118. It has seen a 9% increase in price.
That's actually kind of impressive.
Because Death Shadow has been such on a downtick.
Yeah, ever since I believe humans became a thing, this has shifted the metagame around to the point where Death Shadow is really poor.
Yeah.
And because the fact that the stock on the Shadow deck in general is increasing, despite the fact that it is seeing objectively less play overall, that's really like the rest of these decks. Like Tron's going to go up because Tron's usually good. Like the humans deck is going to go up because it just skyrocketed out of nowhere. Death Shadow deck that has lost a lot of value in the metagame wise, still going up in card price wise, is a very clean indicator of a problem.
Exactly. So, what I also found interesting is Saffron Olive, towards the end of this article, says that the total set price of Modern Masters 2017 lines up almost exactly with our average deck price increase, with the set increasing 24.9%. So like you can see it in the Modern Masters set itself. Like the set itself has gone up 24%.
That's a problem with the sets themselves.
Right.
Because
print runs and things like that. But
they're $10 a pack, which means people are drafting these things once, maybe twice. There may very few people are buying boxes of this format. You're not actually allowing players to be able to open enough boxes of this stuff to actually realistically affect prices.
That's fair. So,
and that's just a problem with the Modern Masters or the Master sets in general. Is they are too hard to get into. They're too hard to be usable. Like there's a reason standard sets do really well as draft sets because everybody's playing standard and draft at the same time usually. People are only drafting this set once, maybe twice, and then it just gets shelved, which means you don't get enough of this format or these cards opened into the world to be able to actually realistically do what the set is supposed to be doing.
So let's say Daniel O'Connor, an aspiring young Magic player, would like to dip his toes into the modern format, and you're really interested in this really cool new humans deck. that has just come out. It's doing really good at GPs. It's your kind of play style. You really like tribal and aggro decks. It looks awesome. You pull up a deck list. You pull up a deck list, and the very first card you see is called Noble Hierarch, and your deck needs 4 of them. And if you want 4 of them, it's going to be $320 for your mana dorks.
That's what, $60 a piece, $80 a piece.
Dude, it doesn't matter. It's too much.
Yeah, you're talking about
$320 for 4 mana dorks. You can't justify having $320 mana dorks.
Yeah, no, it's a little bit ridiculous because it's like this is again one of those things that's like it pushes new players out of Modern. It only rewards invested players, people who have had the Noble Hierarchs forever, who have bought them one at a time for the most part. Like a lot of people buy Modern staples like this one at a time, maybe one a month, maybe one a paycheck. That means you're talking like 60 months to build one of these like Jund. All these cards in Jund decks are $20 to $50, which means in order to build a Jund deck at a modest, I would say responsible adult rate of spending, means you gotta buy these cards 1 week, 1 month at a time, and then by the time you do that,
the format has changed.
Yeah, for all you know, by the time you finish building this deck, Modern might not be supported anymore.
Right. To put it, just one final thing I just want to add on, just about the ridiculous price of Noble Hierarch. Dude, we live in a world where Noble Hierarch is more expensive than Jace the Mind Sculptor. Think about that.
I think that has a lot to do with the fact that
it doesn't matter what it has to do with. It's just to put it in perspective, like just that sentence alone. I think if you said that a decade ago, people would be like, "Oh my God, you're crazy! Like Noble Hierarch will never be more than a Jace the Mind Sculptor. That's crazy."
Yeah, Mind Sculptor is a super powerful card, and Noble Hierarch is functionally a mana dork. It's a very good mana dork, but it's just a mana dork.
It's more than Snapcaster Mage, dude.
Yeah,
Snapcaster Mage is incredible.
Snapcaster Mage sees less play overall, though.
Yeah, sure.
Noble Hierarch is a rainbow. It's not even a rainbow mana dork. It's a Bant mana dork.
Dude, if you want to play Burn, it's going to cost you $620. The most affordable Modern deck there is $620.
That's sad.
So,
because most of the cards, like most of the burn spells, I believe are like less than $5 a piece.
Yeah, look, I got the list right here, man.
Yeah,
like,
most
look,
of them are.
You want 4 Steering Blades? Cool, $7. 4 Lightning Helix, $9.
Reasonable.
Sweet. 4 Arid Mesa, $160.
Yeah, the problem is, of course, the mana base. You
want Goblin Guides? Oh, play set, $90.
That's close to that's reasonable enough where you can be like, I'm buying 1, maybe 2 of these per payroll or whatever, per pay income.
Yeah, but not everybody can do that,
Yeah,
that's the unfortunate part.
Well, a lot of people are having to save up and to trade these things into the store or trade these things into credit to get these things. I think half the problem with these decks is a lot of them are super expensive because of the mana base. You only have basically 2 to 3 good land types in each deck that these decks have to run on. You have your shock lands, your fetch lands, and then usually you have either fast lands or check lands to support these decks, which means everybody's vying for the same lands. And shock lands have been printed twice, fetch lands have been printed twice each, kinda. The problem with the enemy shock fetch lands is they were printed in a master set as their second run.
Yep.
The problem with the friendly fetch lands is they were printed in onslaught for one of their runs, which means there's not a lot. They need to be like the Pluto Delta that I have is like $20 to $30, which is a much more reasonable price because they printed it in a standard set. When you print the cards in a standard set, you're actually more likely to put enough cards in the world to actually make these things affordable and acquirable.
I'm a big advocate for players to be able to play whatever format they want, and it feels like they can't. I mean, Legacy to me feels like a lost cause at this point, which is fine. The reserve list is what it is, and I've kind of accepted it at this point. If it ever gets abolished, then it gets abolished, and sweet, I can get back into Legacy.
It's become the new vintage.
But Modern should be the new Legacy. Why isn't Modern pushed as a format? Look how insanely popular every Modern ProTour or GP is on coverage compared to standard or limited even.
Yeah, because
It's crazy.
the
I
thing-
just want to be an advocate, and I understand that at some point it has to be a business decision for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, but man, like people are really unhappy right now. Like as far as like the price of Modern goes. And articles like Seth's only kind of exacerbate the problem, which I'm not saying that he did anything wrong by posting this. It's just the truth.
I mean,
but
he's almost doing the format good by posting this. And
right,
bringing
yeah,
the price,
I absolutely believe that because now we're having this conversation again.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's also a problem because the format is ridiculously hard to get into, and right now it's ridiculously bad to play. Like, there's only a handful of decks. You have this thing, and it's like, now half the players that have been investing into Modern can't play their Modern decks because the format has been broken. And so, what are you going to do?
At this point, I don't know the answer other than to just reprint better Modern Master. I think, honestly, we should have Modern Master sets, but the pack should be at regular MSRP.
I think that would.
I think that has to happen because $10 Master sets, people are over it. I'm over it. Nobody wants to draft that format because it's so expensive.
Especially like the first couple times, it was a bit of a novelty, and then they printed 2 in the same year. It's just like really now.
Well, the first Modern Master set had Karn and Mox Opal and Noble Hierarch, and had all these incredible modern cards.
You could tell on the first one that they were trying. They put the swords in there. They put a lot of the cards that were really expensive. They put the good cards in there because they wanted to make sure this was a real thing. They wanted to show people that they were actually trying to make this. They wanted to show, hey, we are actively concerned about Modern. And so when they printed off that first Modern Master set, they put a lot of work into it, and they were trying. Since then, you can see like it almost feels like they're trying to make them special by printing different Modern cards in there, but they're not printing the ones we need. They're just printing random staples, which means they're just going through different cards and seeing what sticks. They're just printing off random expensive cards instead of the ones we actually need.
I can't see a world in which Magic players are okay with spending $10 a pack anymore when you're rare. When like what is it? Some crazy amount of like 60% of the rares in your set are less than $3.
Yeah, I remember there was a problem with it was either the original or the second one where Comet Storm was one of the mythics. It's just like
what?
That's a small problem,
dude. Tree of Redemption.
Yes,
what?
Yeah, like that's the thing. It's like the first one was a problem because Comet Storm was. It's like, okay, I can see you trying to make this a thing, or I can see you like you needed an extra spot, or you were worried about limited format, maybe a one of whatever. You made a mistake, whatever. But when
Tree of Redemption was not a mistake.
No.
That was a conscious decision to take out Tarmogoyf out of there. So.
Well, no. The problem was when you do Comet Storm the first time, that's forgivable. Fool Me Twice, however, says you're doing stupid things like Tree of Redemption.
Right.
You're doing these things that's like now you're just printing bulk rares in the Mythic slot because apparently you don't have anything better to print. I don't like. Why do you not have anything better to print? Like there's so many cards that could have been printed in that spot that would have made more sense. Like you could have printed Noble Hierarch in the Mythic slot, and I think that would have been fine. Sure, it would have been a Mythic, but it still would have been better than Tree Redemption, which sees literally no play in
any format except for maybe one Commander deck that wants it.
Doran.
Sure.
Arcadius.
Sure.
That's it.
Sure.
Does it actually have Defender? Does Arcadius want it?
It does have Defender.
Okay.
But Arcades is banned.
Tree of Redemption is green.
Sorry, I was thinking of the black one. My bad. I was thinking Perdition.
Yeah, Tree of Perdition is black.
But yes, yeah. I guess you could play it. Okay, Daniel, you found the deck for it.
Yay.
Woo!
Which is funny because it's a Walls deck. Why, if you're a Walls deck, why are you trying to bring your opponent's life total to 13? No. Why are you bringing your own life total to 13 and making this big old wall?
Especially in Commander.
Yeah, actually, that's not bad. It makes it a very big wall. It's still awful. And the thing is, anybody who wanted a Tree of Perdition for their Arcadius or Torn deck
could still have gotten that for $2.
I would have given you one. I probably have a bulk box of just like 500 cards that are worth less than $1, and I guarantee you I have a couple trees in there.
Well, thanks to Modern Masters, you have even more now. So I don't know. I just wanna clarify that like I don't like I understand it from a business perspective, but it's just like it's getting frustrating, man. Like a couple weeks ago, I started really looking into building a different type of modern deck. I wanted to build it into Scapeshift, and I'm still kind of working on it. So I've decided if I'm playing like Titan Shift or if I'm playing like the controlling version of.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Scapeshift. What?
I was hoping you'd say that. I remember the cryptic ones.
Yeah, those were fun. Anyway, so I've been like, I wanted to build into that deck, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just buy a couple pieces every week. I bought my Valcuts, I bought my Scapeshifts, I bought,
standard helps.
yeah. And then like the further I got down the line, I was like, man, I really don't want to be spending, $400 on a mana base for a one deck. Like it's just. That's the most egregious part to me about this whole thing is like, if only the mana base was more cost effective, it would solve so many problems in the format.
If they were more careful about standard, like you remember standard from Theros to Khans block.
Oh, so good.
With the mana base, you had the fetch lands, and they weren't egregious. They weren't breaking colors. It wasn't until they screwed up and made the fetch lands and the
Tango lands.
Yeah, that's when they made the mistake, and that's when format got bad. But when you are very consciously saying, okay, these are very powerful lands, how do we surround them by not making them broken, then you're fine. You can go through the format, and you make the format better by making these, good dual lands that are good for the format, kinda. There is the shuffle argument to that they are actually bad for the formats in general because you have to keep shuffling your deck. But,
This is a side effect of the game, man.
Yeah, I mean...
It just happens.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't agree with that argument whatsoever. Because, a big part of it is like maybe some players use that as a way to like run the clock on the opponent, but at competitive events that's taken care of. Like that's not that big of a deal. At casual events, like the time on the clock isn't that big of a deal. And there's been such a big push to kind of speed that up. No more pile shuffling and things like that.
Yeah, pile shuffling
has really helped it out. And so I don't completely agree that should be that's a really valid argument that it slows the games down because unless we're in a format where you're just playing 12, 16 fetch lands like like the busted Battle for Zendikar mana base that we had, it's really not that bad. When you're only playing 4 or 8. You didn't see
the shuffle argument come up until after the dual lands were introduced and the games, that's when the mana base got bad.
Like look at Modern decks, every deck is playing fetchland mana base, and the games are still over really quickly.
And mostly that's a byproduct of the format being
much more efficient.
Yeah,
but still, I'm just saying that look at that example. Why can modern decks shuffle 6 times in one game and still be done in a quarter of the time of a standard?
It's also a thing where modern players are used to it. They will grab their deck.
They know what they're looking for. They
will pass a turn shuffling their deck and then go ahead and present the deck afterwards.
Right.
You see that in standard, and there are so many angle shooters in standard that are not familiar with how to play correctly in modern that they'll sit there, they'll shuffle a little deck, they'll be like, well, I'm not going to present my deck until I'm done with my turn, and because I don't want my opponent to know what's going on, kind of thing. And it's just a lost argument, and you're looking at players are the problem, not the cards.
Humans.
Mm-hmm.
They're mana based.
No fetch lands. No, they do have a couple fetch lands, right?
No fetch lands.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's still like $500.
Yeah, and that's because of Cavern of Soul, because it was a very expensive...
Yeah.
Cavern of Souls was a very expensive card before because it's just a really nice card, and then they reprinted it at a Mythic spot. Whatever. But it's mostly just Cavern of Souls and Horizon Canopy.
Yep.
Speaking of which, I really want that. That's the one card that I want reprinted in the rest of the colors. Horizon Canopy. The cycle of lands.
So, yeah, I mean, do you have anything to add on about it?
No.
No.
Well, I feel like we've talked the ear off of the modern problems in both directions as far as...
I know. It's just been something that's really been bothering me this week, and I kind of wanted to talk about it because it's just really frustrating as a player.
It's also exasperated by the fact that it's a modern PTQ season. There's No, like you can't play standard right now because there's no standard PPTs to go to.
Well, thank God, because standard. Ugh.
It's still better than modern.
Yeah.
And the other option is go play Dominaria sealed. Sorry, not Dominaria. Core 19 sealed.
I'm done. After GP Minneapolis, I decided that I'm done with M19 Limited. So yeah, I don't know. Beyond the modern format and everything that's going on with that, I don't know. Like, I guess this week I'm kind of frustrated, kind of venting on this episode this week. I want to play more modern, but I can't because it's too expensive. And then, so I'm like, okay, I'll go play standard. But then the format has been overrun by red decks for so long that it just feels old now. And
the thing with modern is, or like trying to brew in modern is so much more harder than trying to brew in standard. When you're in standard, either the brew cards are really cheap, and if you're doing it kind of right, like I play control mostly because I collect the control cards. You collect Gear Hulks, you collect Disallows. And you could easily you collect blue dual lands. It's very easy to transition and brew from one control deck to another.
Yeah.
And I was playing grindy mid-range decks at one point because it's very easy to transition in standard from brewing, especially when you're investing into one archetype that you like to play. In modern, that's almost impossible because once you start investing into one archetype, if you want to go from Abzan to Jund, that's going to cost you a small fortune because you need to get all your mana base pieces over. You need to get all your red, your lightning bolts, your terminates, your grim lavamancers, all your red cards, and it just makes brewing so much more hard in modern to be able to actually transition from one to the other.
So, before we get out of here, I kind of wanted to bring up Nexus of Fate one more time. So last week on our episode, Nexus of Fate was a $50 card.
Online or in paper?
In paper.
Okay.
Online, it was even more expensive.
Yeah, that's right. It was as much as Force was like 80-ish.
Yeah. It has already gone down to about $25 as of a week.
That's not bad. That's actually probably good, especially with it having a very nice showing at the GPs. Like it did actually top 8. Please put one deck into the top 8 if I recall correctly. I'd have to double check to be certain.
Yep, there was one.
But it was on camera quite a bit, and it still went down. So that's actually a really good thing in the long run.
How do you feel about that card being banned at a standard? Because there's a big argument online about Nexus of Fate, how it isn't available to everyone, and that it's not fair to the more casual players who play. Should it be banned?
I hate banning cards for the sake of casual players.
Yep, me too.
That is the worst reason to ban a card.
Me too.
No offense, casual players.
No offense to casual players.
No. Like I get that casual players will be, but there's a lot of cards that are expensive.
Sure.
It's not even that expensive anymore.
Yeah, man, you want 2 cards? That's $65.
Yeah.
Get good, scrub. It's really expensive to be bad at Magic.
Exactly. Teferis are super expensive. Scarab Cards was super expensive for a while. Chandra and Hazoret haven't gone down since Red took over. Rekindling Phoenix is still super expensive. Like I'm pretty sure.
Is it still like a $20 card?
I thought it was 30 or 40 last I checked.
What? Oh my god! I need to get rid of mine.
Phoenix is really expensive.
I don't even really care to play with that card. You know. Phoenix, it is such a good card, but it is so damn boring.
It's 26 right now, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I can't believe it's still.
It's an okay card. It's really good at its thing. I've thought about Rekindling Phoenix. I could play that alongside my Glorybringers and my Scarab Gods and my Hashasagers or whatever in like my Grixis mid-range style decks that I've played around with before. And then I look at the price, like I don't want to buy 3 of those.
All right.
That's just like it's. I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it's like I don't want to buy 3 of those. But it's like there are lots of cards that are expensive in standard.
Yeah.
Nexus of Fate has a target on its head because of the buy box thing, which the buy box thing is still wrong. But I don't think saying casual players can't play this card, therefore it needs to be banned in standard.
Yeah, I don't think that's a fair argument at all.
Yeah,
I think if the card is so egregious and taking over the format that's a that's a question to the point where it's warping the format and breaking the format. Like that's a different conversation to be having.
Aetherworks Marvel was warping the
Nexus
format.
of Fate doesn't make the format like miserable to play.
It makes it slightly miserable in very specific situations.
At the very end of the game, when control is going to win Arret anyway.
Yeah.
Like just that kind of archetype is going to win that late into the game anyway.
Yeah.
It's just a different way for the deck to do it.
It's not an egregiously overrepresented deck as far as Teamer was seeing a lot of play. Marvel was seeing a lot of play. The Nexus of Fate deck is seeing a reasonable amount of play for a tier 2 deck. It's a tier 2, tier 1.5 kind of deck. It's seeing play, but it's not warping the format around it. You don't see all this crazy anti-Nexus tech.
Yeah, not to the point.
I don't even know how you would.
And honestly, the availability of Nexus of Fate kind of helps that cause. Because if Nexus of Fate was way more easier to get your hands on, then it might be a little different. It might be super impressive, actually.
I don't even think so. I think because the thing is, you didn't see it day 2 metagame representations this week be that egregiously high.
Yep.
You didn't see it being that egregiously high at the Pro Tour. I think the people who are winning with it, I think the people who can afford to just play it can get their hands on it reasonably enough, as much as any other standard staple card. So I don't think its limitation is really holding it back from taking over the metagame. I think
that's fair.
I think how the deck plays and its own weaknesses are holding it back, just like any other archetype.
That's fair. So hey, I got a quick question. One more question for you. How much longer until we get spoiler season for RTR?
RTR. Guilds of Ravnica comes out October 5th, which means I believe we can start getting spoilers for my birthday. 5th. Pre-release will be this weekend on the 29th, which means we get spoilers the 9th through the 21st.
The 9th to the 21st. That's a Sunday? Wouldn't it be the 10th?
Yeah.
Starts on Monday, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually the 10th. Plus you usually get at the GP that weekend, you usually get a couple extra.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes they actually do a couple early on the weekend before. So yeah, we're kind of looking at September 10th. Yeah, for the start of spoiler season.
That's when spoiler season officially gets started.
Today is the 15th. So we are less than a month away.
Yep.
Oh man, I'm so excited.
This is gonna be fun.
You got nothing to add, man?
I got nothing to add.
Cool. You want to close it down?
Okay. Thank you all for listening or watching, whatever you're doing, to this episode of Locked In MTG. My name is Daniel O'Connor.
And I am Nathan Jones.
If you haven't found us already, you can find us on Facebook at Locked In MTG.
You can find us on Twitter at Locked In MTG.
You can find us on SoundCloud at Locked In MTG.
And you can also find us on our YouTube channel, Locked In MTG.
Oh, that's convenient.
Yeah, who knew? It's like we did it on purpose or something. Who knew?
Okay. Sign us out with the ER.
Yeah, so special thanks to our sponsors, Enchanted Realms, located here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. If you guys are in the area, please come check them out. They are one of the most spacious, most luxurious, most...
The chairs here are comfy.
The chairs are very comfy here. And yeah, if you're in the Colorado Springs area, I urge you to come check these guys out. They are fantastic. They are the definition of a friendly LGS, and they just like any other LGS need all the support they can get. So if you guys got some singles you want to buy, come check out ER beforehand, before you go to those shady online dealers.
The cabal.
The cabal. And that's it for this week. Next week we will have more MTG content for you.
Also, probably more non-MTG content.
I mean, but that's okay too.
That's okay too. The rest of the world can exist in our MTG world.
Yeah, I hope that by now the music's playing and we're kind of getting the outro.
I can make that happen.
Yeah, and then right now it's kind of fading out, and it's like we're in a tunnel and we're getting really far away. And this is the part where we have to say goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. Yeah, what are these little colors under your... Those are your, reminders and things to do?
Yeah, those are my events.
Oh, that's cool. That's a lot, man.
Yeah, I put everything in here. I have sleep on my calendar.
That's funny. I'm like looking into all of Daniel's personal stuff on his iPad.
He's looking into my.
So hey man, I had I wanted to petition something for you for the end of our shows. I wanted to have a little segment.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't have a name for it or anything, but I kind of wanted to at the end of the show. I want to talk about something that's outside of the Magic universe.
Why not? We talked about Pokemon and Hearthstone.
We did, and I still feel like a terrible, terrible person for that. So I want to start this new segment. But dude, did you know this week Thor's roommate Daryl survived Infinity War? I was so excited to hear about this. So Daryl
I didn't even know Thor had a roommate.
Okay, so Daryl is this guy. Daryl, he was part of a promotional campaign where he played Thor's roommate for a bunch of different commercials.
Okay, so this isn't like in the official movies. This is part of their promotional stuff.
Right, but this all takes place and it's all canon. So this week it was actually Thor's birthday.
I do want to say that I really appreciate that how much Marvel has put a lot of this stuff in canon, as opposed to something like Star Wars where Disney just ripped canon out from it.
We don't speak about that.
Continue.
We don't speak about that. Just hold on to the original trilogy. That's all we need, my friend. So anyway, Daryl was part of all this promotional material.
Awesome.
During Captain America: Civil War. Mm-hmm. Daryl was Thor's roommate, and so after Infinity War took place, a lot of people have been having this question like, who survived, who didn't, like how do we figure that out? So this week it was actually Thor's birthday, which actually coincides with Chris Hemsworth's birthday. Falls on the same day.
Chris
Go figure.
Hemsworth is the actor for Thor?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And where are they pulling the data for Thor's birthday? Are they actually going into like some sort of Norse mythology for Thor's birthday, or are they just like?
Well, I think that is the same birthday as the actors, because Thor and Chris Hemsworth's birthday fell on the same day this year, and so like okay. I'm pretty sure that it's Chris Hemsworth's birthday, so that means it's Thor's birthday. Okay.
And so I was like, do they act? I wasn't sure the Norse they actually gave birthdays to the Norse gods. That's beside the point.
So Daryl, his roommate, came out on Twitter and to wish Thor a happy birthday. So that confirmed, and it is all canon. Marvel has announced that it is all canon, that Daryl has actually officially survived Thanos' finger snap.
There we go.
So I was just really happy about that. And so, like, because as a big fan of the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, I am an insanely big fan of that universe.
Uh-huh.
I have been, like, since the first Iron Man, essentially. My brother and I grew up reading comic books. That's actually when my brother and I met when we were like 13 or so. That's how we bonded originally, was through comic books. And so like that's our thing now, as we're as adults. Me and him are super into everything MCU. So this, I don't know, man. There's just something about this little piece. It just like I read it, I was like, oh man, that's so cool. Like
I don't know if he's gonna have a part in anything else other than probably more promotional material, because Thor survived.
Yeah.
So now he can be more promotional material in the future for Captain America 5.
So I know I kind of put you on the spot with this weird little segment, but do you got anything for this week?
Anything interesting? That's just awesome. Like my only thing to add for this was just I do appreciate how much Marvel is just like, okay, these are the canon things, and we're going to try to make sure that as much as possible everything fits in this world. They have had a couple holes where there's like the Infinity Gauntlet sitting in the treasure trove of like the first Thor.
It's a fake.
Yeah. And they're just like, okay, we're going to go, because they didn't originally say that was a fake. They just had this gauntlet thing sitting there.
Right.
And then they went back and they said, no, let's make this correct. For however they did it, I don't even recall. I think they just said it's a problem.
It was Hela.
Yeah.
She like walks past it. She goes, fake, and like knocks it over.
Well, no. Like they made it so like, okay. I'm blanking on his name. The Thor's dad.
Odin.
Odin. There we go. I'm horrible with names.
That's okay.
They made it as like, Odin had this thing forged fakely so that it makes it look good, but.
Oh man, that's so funny. Anyway. So that's all I just wanted to bring up this week. I got a little tickle out of that one.
That's adorable. I just typed return to Ravnica.
RT.
Three links down as a spring announcement. Thank you, internet.